In this lesson, we'll learn what caricature drawing is. Alright, so if this is your first time to hear the term caricature, it'd probably be helpful for us to go ahead and start off by letting you know what exactly that means. Let me go ahead and jump in here and reveal a layer here in this document. Now, a caricature drawing is artwork that exaggerates the unique or distinct features of an individual. Now, these features can be more subtle or they can be more obvious. This is all going to depend on the subject of the artwork as well as the artist who is interpreting that subject. Now, what makes specific features in an individual unique or distinct? Now, that's a really good question, and the answer is how these features vary from what we know to be classical proportions is going to define them as unique features. So you can look here and see that on the right we have a photograph of Mr. Stallone, and on the left we have a caricature of Mr. Stallone. You can see that several of his features have been exaggerated. They're not being depicted exactly as we see them on the right. Now, there are a couple of different scenarios where you might see caricature artwork being used. Now, a couple of those, the first one being the live or the quick draw type caricature artist. Now, these artists we've all seen. They are typically found at theme parks or festivals of some kind, and you can usually go up and give them a sum of money and sit down, and they'll draw a quick caricaturized version of you that you can take home with you. Now, this is typically done in black and white with some kind of a pen or marker, but they are pretty much building this piece of artwork around the same foundations as the artist that we're about to talk about. The next type of caricature artist really takes that same foundation and produces more of a portrait style image, more of a portrait style caricature illustration. They've applied traditional portrait style coloring methods to the same type of artwork, producing a much different looking image. Now, as I said before, each one of these artists is using the exact same foundation for planning out their image and building that image. Now, with that said, let's go ahead and talk about three really important things that all caricatures, all effective caricatures need. The first thing is a likeness. We need to be able to tell who that is in the artwork without seeing a photograph or without being told. So if I were to hide this photograph of Mr. Stallone here on the right, and we were to just see this artwork here on the left, would we be able to tell that that's Sylvester Stallone? If the answer is no, then what we have is not a successful caricature. In fact, really the whole point of a caricature is to capture the likeness or the essence of your subject. Now, with that said, the second important thing you need to know that a successful caricature is going to include is going to be some form of exaggeration. Now, this exaggeration can really be very minimal. It can be something that is very dominating, depending on the situation and the artist producing the artwork. But every caricature is going to include some form of exaggeration. If there's no exaggeration involved in the artwork, then what we have is more of a portrait and not a caricature. Now, the third thing that is often found or is very important to caricatures is really not a mandatory component. This is something that many artists will include in their caricature, and it's the fact that they're trying to make a statement through the artwork rather. They're trying to communicate a message. Now, we don't really see that here in this artwork in front of us, but a very common place where you can find this editorialized message within a caricature is in political cartoons. Oftentimes, a political cartoon will caricaturize a politician and try and communicate a message through the way that character or that person has been exaggerated. Now, as I said before, not every caricature will include this component, but it's very common in caricature art. So where do all caricatures start? How do we even begin thinking about producing a piece of artwork like we see here on the left, while looking at a subject like we have here on the right? Well, all caricatures are going to begin with the artist, and that artist's ability to perceive what makes an individual unique. Now, this is oftentimes the most difficult thing for an artist. So, with that said, let's go ahead and continue on to the next lesson where we'll learn about the building blocks of caricature art.